developers meet security. How many of you are mainly developers? Please raise your hand. And how many of you are mainly security people? How many of you are mainly managers? And we can see that there are people who have multiple hats. That's okay. I'm going to share with you lessons learned about what happens when we have developers and security people communicate based on a real story. I've added some elements and changed it in such a way that you won't be able to identify the real situation, but we'll have a real story based on fact, as we can say. So, my name is Marta Rybczynska, and everyone calls me Marta. You do not have to pronounce my last name. I've been working between security and development for the last 20 years. So I speak both languages, and actually I spent quite a lot of time translating between the security speak and the development speak. So this is the reason for this presentation today. So what is our cast in the story? First, we have a security researcher. 2 years after school, have done a cybersecurity major, full of enthusiasm, ready to improve the situation in the cybersecurity. Knows all the OpenSSF tools and is able to use all of them against any project. And already has some experience. And this developer, this researcher, is a firm open source believer, so that person wants to improve the situation, sincerely wants to improve the situation. So they start working on an open source project that has no CVs in the last 10 years. They do a little bit of static analysis, and other tools find 10 issues in 48 hours. That's not something unusual. They write a documentation of those issues, detailed instructions on how to reproduce them, all the knowledge related to those 10 issues, and sends that out to the maintainer. Well, the maintainer. Who is the maintainer? The maintainer has been working on the project for the last 15 years. The person knows their stuff. And managed to have an arrangement with the employer to spend 1 day per week working on that project, but that is not enough, so they are also spending their weekends and holidays unpaid working on maintaining the project. They have no particular security background because when they finished university, there were no security classes at that time. They know about CVEs, but never issued one, so, well, not really knows how to do it. And for many years has been looking for someone to help with the project, but gave up. But it's still hoping that one day there will be someone who's going to arrive and help. And there is an important bug in the project that is causing issues to users. They have started working on a fix. And unfortunately, the fix requires a major refactoring. So it's a lot of work to make that fix done. And when they are working on that refactoring and counting the number of weekends that it will still need to finish the work, they receive those 10 security reports. So what could go wrong? This is a list of security abbreviations security people quite often tend to include. Abbreviations and dialect. If a security researcher puts about half of that list into the message to a developer who has no idea what it means, there will be a communication problem. So, the first lesson, when you are a security researcher and you are communicating to a developer, please explain all of the abbreviations. In the technical fields, we have many situations when we have the same abbreviation, the same letters, in different subfields, and they mean something completely different. I've seen many times discussion and people trying to understand each other, and finally reaching to a conclusion that they are talking about two completely different things, but they have the same abbreviation. So, avoiding security speak and dialect, that's a good thing to go, and I recommend all the security researchers, before they send messages to a project, to have a small prep work with just 3 questions. Does this project have a security policy? If it has, that's better. And if it has, follow that security policy. Second question, does this project have a security team? If it has, you should be able to find information how to reach them. And then third question is how many maintainers there are. The amount of information a single maintainer can process is limited, as we know. And then I've seen a lot of security reports during the years. You may believe me or not, but there are some that start asking about the bug bounty the person can get from the report. Another risky way of formulating a security report is stating that you have done a research on a project, on a version of the project that has been released 5 years ago and it's not supported anymore for that long, without mentioning the main branch of the project. The classic problems of lack of instruction how to reproduce or missing steps in the instructions to reproduce, that is frustrating for developers. And absolutely do not do that sentences like you must fix, or that is even worse, we need that fix for the next release of our project. That could have a result with of a nice message of asking the company to do a small consulting contract to have it done. And quite classical also, can I get a CV in the first message? That is risky when reporting. What should the researcher do instead? Give a clear method to reproduce the issue, test with the latest version or the stable version that the project has, be ready to answer questions and explain to the developer if they do not understand how the bug happens and what are the possible exploitation methods. And avoid security speak and be respectful, that's pretty obvious. If you can provide a patch in a situation, that will be much welcome by developers. And then we are at OpenSSF meeting, so there are tools. Quite an impressive list of tools that OpenSSF supports. And there are a lot of tools, what means that it takes time to understand which tool serves what purpose and in which situation it's going to help. I heavily recommend avoiding using statements like it will improve security while pitching the new tool to the project. Be more specific. Say what exact problem it is going to fix. So the recommendation for security tools developers: define clearly what kind of problem you are solving so that you can explain that to busy maintainers in 30 seconds. Write that phrase down. What about having a quick start showing how you can do and what you can gain from using your tool? And explain clearly where your tool is the right solution and also where it is not. Every tool has use cases where it works and the use cases where it doesn't. And then we have silos. We have silos between developers and security people. I recommend my security friends to do talks on developers conferences, and I recommend my developer friends to do talks at security conferences. You will always learn interesting things. And also having security talks in non-security tracks at the conference. That is often interesting. For people interested in security, quite often they are passionate about fixing security. It happens they are passionate enough to forget that maintainers have many other problems, like the performance, the time available they have. They have different difficulties in their maintenance, and they need to have a balance between the big fix that users require and the 10 vulnerability reports. If you can contribute code in critical projects, that's a good thing to do, not necessarily security related. So, to wrap up, can our two persons communicate? Yes, they can. Historically, there were those two silos, so if you are by a majority in one camp or the other, be aware that the people from the other group may speak differently, may understand things differently from you, may not have the same background and knowledge. And take one step forward to understand other side. This is exactly the same thing like talking a different language. And between developers and security people, quite often it looks like a different language. Then think about the problem you are going to solve, not necessarily the solution that you offer. Maybe the solution is different. If you are providing assistance to a project, do it with respect. And then every communication is going to turn out correctly. We'll finish with that. Let's communicate well between developers and the security researchers. Thank you.